Welcome to Let's Talk Money, Honey, the podcast where we break down the barriers to financial success.
I'm Elise Levy here with Holly Henry, and we're your hosts, two financial advisors on a mission to demystify investing, unravel the complexities of money, and sprinkle a little wisdom into your life.
Whether you're a seasoned investor or just dipping your toes into the world of finance, join us once a month as we discuss how to navigate life's financial twists and turns. Just remember, building wealth and living your best life should be empowering, not intimidating.
So listen up and let's talk money, honey. All right, we're back for another episode of Let's Talk Money, Honey, and we're doing a new structure moving forward. So the first thing we're going to do is a deep dive into one topic. So Holly, what are we talking about today?
We are going to be talking about just a few power moves that you need to be making now before interest rates start getting cut. And so if you want to start it off with our first power move that you need to be making.
Okay. Before I even get there, I actually am going to backtrack and just go over the relationship between inflation and
Yes.
interest rates, because I think, we assume that everybody knows as much as we do, but you know how it is. If you don't ask, you don't know. So I'm going to just keep it really basic. So in 2020, during the pandemic, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates to almost zero to stimulate the economy. So, and that is the tool that the Federal Reserve in our country uses to either stimulate or slow the economy, interest rates. So, when they feel like they need to stimulate and have people spend more money and put money into the economy, they're going to lower interest rates. And if they need to slow down the economy, which is what they've been trying to do for the last couple of years because inflation has skyrocketed, they're going to increase those interest rates. So that is the kind of climate we've been in the last couple of years. The Federal Reserve has been slowly increasing rates. And now we're at a really interesting moment. It stood still for a while. And actually, in September 18th, the Fed is actually going to make its first cut because they feel like inflation has cooled enough that they might be able to start stimulating the economy again. Holly, how did I do on not being too
I
complicated?
think it's you did perfect. And I think it's definitely a relevant topic because the inflation amounts that we've been seeing over the past few years have been enormous, and it's causing the interest rates to be horrible. So, I mean, for those of you that may be living under a rock, interest rates 9%, 10% on up. We're seeing it across the board with interest rates for homes, cars. We're even seeing increases in, because this is something that Elise and I talk about a lot, increases in credit card interest rates. That has went up to almost what, 25, 26% last time we looked.
It's really high.
Yes, yes, and I don't necessarily know if that's due to inflation or they're just finding a good reason to increase it, but, yes, inflation, we're definitely feeling it, with any type of debt that's being bought. But the good news is on the flip side, we're also seeing that on CD rates. So CD rates have been really good lately.
Exactly. And that actually leads into our first power move. So, as the Fed gets ready to cut rates in September, we want to give you three power moves to really help you utilize the current situation as much as possible. So, the first one is taking advantage of that high yield savings opportunity. And the two biggest ways you can do that is a high yield savings account. So, you can open that at almost any bank across America. I'm not going to list any by name or endorse any, but it's available at most places. And you do have to ask, you have to read the fine print and really know what you're signing up for, because a lot have, minimums and things like that. So really know what you're getting into. But it's such a great tool for your cash that you don't want invested, but you want it earning interest. You might as well earn 3 to 4% on it instead of nothing. And then the other tool is certificates of deposits, or as we call them, CDs. So those are a little bit different. You have to hold them for a specific amount of time. So whether it's 6 months or a year, and then you get interest on it. So, as we're looking at lowering interest rates, now is a perfect opportunity to lock in those rates. So, if you wanted to buy a CD for a year or 6 months, now is a good time because we know that interest rates are going to continue to go down. Holly, what's the second thing people should be thinking of?
Okay, so we already talked a little bit about interest rates tied to vehicles and homes. And I'm one right now that I'm currently shopping for a vehicle and I'm seeing how much interest rates are for used cars. And it's ridiculous. But we know it has been announced that these rates are going to come down. So if you can possibly hold off, I would say definitely hold off because this is just the first cut that's coming within the next few weeks. I feel like there's going to be more cuts to come. So hold off as long as you can so you can get a better interest rate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. And just, you have to understand if you're looking for a house, you can't always time it perfectly. But
Mhm.
knowing the interest rate environment and making decisions based off of that is really important.
Yeah, and I do for those of you that have had to buy a vehicle, have had to buy a home, had to take out any type of loan in amidst these high interest rates, it's probably going to be a good conversation within the next few months to start looking at refinancing. I mean, as rates start to drop, again, as Elise mentioned, there's times to where you have to move the options. That is the only option.
Yeah,
So go ahead when these rates start dropping, reaching out to your loan officer and seeing if it's worth refinancing.
absolutely. I know I'm going to look into that for myself.
Mhm. Yes, we're all ready for those rates to go down.
And the other thing, the last power move we wanted to talk about is being invested during this time. So the stock market has gone up in this period of time where the Fed is trying to slow down the economy and lower inflation. But if you haven't been invested in these past couple of years, you've really been missing out, sitting on the sidelines. So, Holly, what's your advice for people who are questioning being invested in this time?
Definitely, definitely. I remember that the stock market it's a long-term game. And so right now is the time that you want to be in it, even though it's volatile and it's bumpy. And we talk to our clients that it's a hard time to be in it. And I feel like inflation is causing people to be more strapped for money.
Hmm.
In the end, my recommendation is you look for sacrifices on whether going out to eat, things that you don't have to have because you do want it's going to pay off in dividends if you can stay vested.
Absolutely. And I think, as always, when people are worried about the money they already have invested, we just want to go back to you're investing for the long term.
Yes.
So, although there's bumps along the way, we have to kind of keep our eyesight very far in the future and know that it's all going to eventually go up, but it's going to have a lot of ups and downs along the way.
Yeah, and I feel like with this inflation, people automatically think the economy is bad, but the stock market has done well, has done tremendously well. And people just forget to even look. It's like they're concerned about the economy and they want to put everything in cash. And again, that right now is just if you're going to put it in cash, let's look at high yield savings accounts and CDs like we mentioned.
Yeah, but I think we get it because, looking at the consumer price indexing, it really is inflation really hits your pocketbook. And so that's why it's such a close to home issue because when you go to the grocery store, you feel it. When you go to the gas pump, you feel it. So it's really top of mind for most people.
Yeah, and I think we had this conversation earlier going over different things that are actually really inflated right now.
Yeah.
So obviously we feel it at the grocery store. Everyone can say that. We will really feel it at restaurants, but the number one thing where people are getting hit right now is auto insurance. And let me tell you, like I just got my 6 month bill the other day and I just thought, oh my gosh, like I have not filed a claim in years and years and this is skyrocketing.
Yep, absolutely. And I think like the biggest one after that, which I'm sure everyone can relate to, is rent and
Yeah.
housing.
Yeah.
And over the past 5 years, it's crazy how much rent has increased, how much cost of housing has increased. And you can't not live somewhere. And that's a lot of these expenses, I think, which makes it so hard. It's like these are things you need to spend money on. There's no way around it. You
Mhm.
need auto insurance.
Right.
You need a place to live.
Right.
So I
Right.
think like we have a lot of empathy because, I think people get fed up with, stop eating out, stop doing this. It's like there are some expenses that are just going to be expensive in inflationary times. So that's why you need to be utilizing your cash correctly, getting the high interest where you can, and being smart about your money because some of it is out of your control.
Right, and I will say, again, this also ties into probably why you need a financial advisor at whatever level of wealth you're at, because sometimes, like, what we do is we review for our clients their insurance policies. And one of my clients this past week brought in their vehicle insurance and was obviously complaining. And this was a very used vehicle that probably wasn't worth 7, 8 thousand, and they were paying almost 1,000 every 6 months in insurance. It was way over insured.
That is crazy.
And so we had to have this conversation of, okay, do we go to liability only? Do we increase deductibles? And again, it's like you've got to be smart with your money in the midst of these crazy times.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good wrap on our deep dive into inflation and interest rates. Is there anything else we want to cover before we move on?
No, I think we are ready to move on to questions that we've received.
Yeah, so now we're going to be doing some Q&As that we've received from our audience.
Mhm.
And if you ever have a question that you want us answered, it's all anonymous. You can email us, you can DM us on Instagram, however you want to get in contact is fine, but we'll take all the questions we can get and eventually we'll answer all of them.
Yes.
So our first one is how much can I contribute to a Roth a year?
Okay, so one, we love Roths. We just absolutely do. And we encourage that if you can max it out, put as much as you can, which is $7,000 for 2024. If you are age 50 or older, you can contribute $1,000 more. Now, these numbers do typically steadily increase each year. So again, it's important that if you can max it out if you can. We are also aware that a lot of people do not always contribute to their Roth because they make too high of income. Just remember, talk to your financial advisor because there's always loopholes on that, and we can set up a backdoor Roth for you. That's perfectly legal, and to get anyone that's in any income bracket a Roth.
Yeah, they are amazing. And we have a whole video on them. So if you really want the
Yes.
nitty-gritty details, check it out.
Yes. Okay, Elise, the question that I received is what's the best way to keep track of spending?
So I think that's a big one that we work on with our younger clients is getting on the same page with spending and understanding what's coming in and what's going out a month. And just having that understanding will change your mindset right away. So a classic way to do it is Excel. And actually, if you Google it, there's all these free templates you can use, which are make it really simple and easy. And then we also have a couple free apps that we recommend as well. NerdWallet has one and Pocket Guard. So if you're an app person and you want it all clean and pretty and not an Excel file, that's going to be a great option as well. And we also have our own. So if you want the Let's Talk Money Honey version of our budgeting tracker, you can always email us or DM us and we can get that to you for free.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then our last question is how much should I be saving a month? I know that's a little vague, Holly, so do
Mhm.
your
Okay.
best.
So the very vague answer is we like to see people save around 20% a month. However, we know again, we just talked about inflation and money is tight. So even if you can't reach 20%, that's the goal, right? And that 20% includes what you're putting towards retirement. It's what you've set aside for the your emergency money. It is money that is just set aside for you. So that to me is the amount that people need to try to achieve. And that is a chunk, especially for young people. But that I feel like is the goal.
Absolutely. It's a great goal. And, anything like your 401k or any paycheck deductible that you're paying yourself first, we always love that or direct deposit, because you'll be less likely to spend it if it's not in your bank account.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to end the episode with our tip of the month. It's September. Holly, what is our tip?
Okay, so September, we are coming up on the holidays. It's already on my mind. And if you've not listened, we just did a great podcast about budgeting for the holidays. So now is the time to really just sit down before we get obsessed with Thanksgiving and Christmas and well, and even Halloween that's coming a little bit before. Like sit down and start thinking about the parties you're going to be throwing and the food that you're going to need to be buying and the decor because I've already been buying probably too much fall decor. So sit down, set your budget. We have got a wonderful budget that's set aside that you can fill out. Again, like Elise mentioned, DM us, send us an email, contact us however, and we can just gladly get this to you. Just so you can start thinking about what money you need to be setting aside for this busy, busy time of the year.
Absolutely. And just being proactive and hopefully getting rid of some of the stress.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, tune in to our next episode and thanks for listening.